God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us. He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Person of Master Farad Muhammad. And we thank Almighty God Allah for his raising up the most humble and honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we also thank them both for leaving in our midst the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, a man who is a large part of the reason why we're here, today. So we're trying to work this thing out. It's not the slides are disrupted, Brother Mike. You see it? So, okay. So we talked about the first slide. It didn't go through, but you all, if you've been watching the show, you've been seeing why we actually do this. And the minister, in a letter that was written to George Bush Jr. in 2001, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talked about how he told him that I write you from a prison. And he said, not a prison that has 4 walls or bars, but a prison of propaganda, anti-Semite. He's labeled an anti-Semite, anti-gay, etc., etc. All of that, which is not true. And when I think about the people that we bring on this show for their testimonies, I believe, like in a court of law, the testimonies free people. And in the Bible, it says Satan was defeated by the blood of the Lamb and the power of their testimony. And so that's why we're doing this show, brothers and sisters. And as you can see, we did a survey. I like to get numbers. And 90% of the people who have tuned in and watched these interviews have said that they have helped them in their faith. They have helped them as a believer. And 90%, over 90% said that it has helped them to gain a greater understanding of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And let me tell you, if you're a believer, if you're not a believer, having a proper understanding of that man in this day and time is extremely important. It's almost is equivalent to, but even greater, to being in a burning building and you're looking for the exit sign. You're looking for the exit door. And anybody that can point you to that exit door is extremely important. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is that man for not just Black people today, not just Hispanics or Latinos. He is that for all of humanity. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing this show. And we go to the next slide. We see when we have it, we encourage you all, brothers and sisters. That's just with the testimony with some people. You can make it larger, Brother Mike. Yeah. So with the testimony, how some people say that they got from the testimony, how these testimonies help them in understanding the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and how to never give up and keep striving for the excellence no matter how hard life gets. And these testimonies are to teach us about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the interviewer, the person that's being interviewed, but also to inspire us to be our best selves. And so as we go forward, when we see with the next one that we have, we always show, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. Right now, we're close to 8,000. We're about 500 away from 8,000. We want you to help us to subscribe to make that 8,000 mark and more, because we are giving you and connecting you to the life-giving teachers of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And make sure you subscribe to our mosque Instagram page as well. And as we continue to move forward, as we're getting closer to, we'll go to the next slide as it has. One of the benefits of you subscribing to our page, you have access to this playlist. And this playlist gives you all the ammunition you need to fight against the false accusation of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan being an anti-Semite and the Nation of Islam being a hate group. As well as this next slide will show you what else that you will get. You get access to this playlist that has information that can help you fight back and dispel the lies about the Nation of Islam, Minister Farrakhan, the Mosaic Elijah Muhammad having something to do with Malcolm X's murder. And then as the next slide shows, during this COVID, brothers and sisters, we want to offer up prayers for you and your family. People have been sending us emails asking us to pray for their family, and we've been definitely doing so. So we would appreciate as you do. In addition to the prayer, as it shows in this next slide as well, we're in the midst of working to pay off our mosque mortgage. Whatever you can contribute, go to our Cash App right now. Whatever you can give, we would appreciate it. Go to our mosque GoFundMe page. Go on GoFundMe. Whatever you can give, we would greatly appreciate it. And we thank you, and we thank you. And we want to, before we get into our interview for today, we want to announce to you who's going to be interviewed on next Sunday, inshallah, if it be the will of Allah. And as we show in the next slide, we'll show who our next person. So inshallah, brothers and sisters, we will have our brother Dougie Fresh, the original human beatbox, the entertainer, Mr. 6 Minutes himself, Dougie Fresh, here on I Have a Testimony, inshallah, on next Sunday. And before we go into the next slide, we want to thank our brother, all of those who work with NNV News for giving us the opportunity to allow I Have a Testimony to stream live on their marvelous network. If you are not following them on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, please make sure you get with NNV. And we got our brother Mike, he's behind the boards. So we talked about that, but today, as the next slide shows, we have our brother, who this has been a long time in the making to get our brother on this show. And what we wanted to do initially before COVID, the goal was to get him on down to the city of New Orleans to do it live and in person. So now we're going to go live to our brother who's standing by, the one and only brother Sultan Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, my brother.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
And thank you for having the opportunity, for making the time out to participate in I Have a Testimony, this interview series. And we appreciate it. Let me thank you for all that you do, all you have done, and all you will do in service of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and our nation and Black people as a whole. Thank you.
Well, thank you, my dear brother. And it is an honor to be here. When I looked at your line of guests, and I pray that with that line of guests, that we can all help to our people and the believers to better understand and know really the blessed divinity of this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful man of extraordinary love.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's what we're going to be talking about. We could get right into it. In preparation for this interview, I found out that you were born in Houston, right? Or raised in Houston.
Yes, sir.
And in addition to that, it's just interesting that you also knew who we know now, may Allah be pleased with him, brother Dr. Khalid Muhammad, right?
Yes, sir. He brought me in Los Angeles.
Wow. Did you know him while you all were in Houston?
Yes, sir. We lived about 1,000 feet away.
Wow. Can you talk about that? How you knew him? Like how you knew him before the Khalid Muhammad, before the Sultan Muhammad?
Yes, sir. I lived in, of course, as we know, I know Houston, Texas, and we lived in, of course, 5th Ward, which is called the Bloody Nickel and the 5th and all the different things that went along with it, being the roughest, really one of the roughest hoods in Texas.
Mm.
And Brother Khalid's aunt lived around the corner, and he was sent by his mother to Houston to live from Los Angeles. His family was actually in Los Angeles, his mother and brothers and sisters. And so I meet him at about at the age of 13. He was a half a year ahead of me.
Wow. In
junior high school. And in high school, we moved up into the same class, and I graduated with his class.
Wow.
We all then went to Dillard together, and I was kicked out as a militant. This is in '66, and he stayed and remained. And the next time I saw Brother Khalid. Well, let me give you a little more of the history. Uh, he was a quarterback at Phyllis Wheatley High School. We were both in debate. We were in forensics, you know, extemporaneous speaking, and we were thugs. So it was kind of a beautiful combination coming up in Fifth Ward in Houston.
Man.
You know, in that you were maybe kind of the scholars, but you were also a little thuggish too, you know, because Houston, Texas, Fifth Ward was a rough place. And that was even an area that was called Pearl Harbor because it looked like it had been bombed. But coming up in that kind of environment with the teachers we had who loved us, and at that time you didn't have, which makes maybe something of the difference today, you didn't have a situation where you weren't loved. Your school was populated with Black teachers. You didn't have many of our scholars and geniuses in the many areas of which they're in now in mainstream. So your geniuses, everybody was right there to teach you. And I mean, brother, in those schools, you were loved. We had some of the best teaching and training in the class that I graduated in.
Wow.
There were, if I remember correctly, 4 who scored perfect scores.
Wow. That's something. Wow.
That's the kind of teaching we had. And we didn't have the advantages of that the white children had.
Yeah.
We were the first of those who went into debate with the white schools, and we whipped them wherever we found them.
Wow. Praise
speaking, we whipped them wherever we found them. Impromptu speaking, we whipped them wherever we found them. So you had something of a foundation where you knew a little early that maybe they weren't all they were cracked up to be, and maybe we were a little more than what we thought of ourselves.
Wow, that's something, man. And that's, so you talked about your time at Dillard. We're going to show this photo of you standing post next to the rostrum in the black suit. And when I saw that photo, so you were about to talk about it. How did you come to Islam? How did you first hear the teachings, and what made you decide to join?
Well, following being kicked out of Dillard, I was later told that I would be sent into the Army. So at a certain point, I made a decision. I had already lived in the city and was going through different experiences, taking care of myself. And I didn't want to go home because I didn't feel that I had really honored my family. I was the first to go to college. And so I had that in the back of my head, and I wanted to be successful before I ever went back home. However, there were certain beauties in what happened, because in New Orleans, where Dillard is, when I'm kicked out, now I got to learn to make a living for myself. And I had the opportunity. I was 6'4". I looked a little older. I had a beard. So I was told about the job that I could get in the French quarters.
Wow.
In New Orleans.
Yeah.
And I'm 18. And you had to be 25 to work in the bar, but I worked at Pat O'Brien's.
Wow.
And something about me, the older waiters and they actually helped me get on. And because I looked a little older at the time, I was able to get on. So I was able to meet Major Lance, and I was able to meet people from all over the world in this Pat O'Brien's, selling alcohol, drinks, a hurricane, a cyclone. And I'm saying this because I have come to realize that God has had his hand on all of us all the time.
All the time.
He has allowed us to live things we have lived through because he had something better for us to do. And although we have thought very little of ourselves, there is not one of us who has not been a major objective of Almighty God Allah.
Wow.
So it also helps me to, when I see you, bow. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, when you're looking at the black man, you're looking at God.
Wow.
And it's been wrong to see that when you're looking at the black woman,
looking at God too.
You're looking at God.
And so you said that Khaled introduced you when you was in LA to the teachings?
Yes, sir. So remember, I left, he stayed.
Yeah.
I learned later that I think he saw the minister in 1970.
Okay.
In New Orleans. And both he and he stood up later, and then also with Brother Sharif in Los Angeles. Shaheed, I'm sorry. Now, during this period that he's doing that, I'm in the world. I went into the Navy. I got kicked out of the Navy. It's a blessing. In December of 1969, they said that I was psychosomatic phase 3. And when he said he was finished, you all should have released him then, and that's why I was upgraded 10 years later. It wasn't because of that, it was because I had been successful. And I'm living this life. I heard that his name was like Rockadine or something. I heard he was in the Nation. I heard Brother Khaled was in the Nation. And then I ran into Lou Myers. Lou Myers also came out of our block, the former attorney who has returned now. But Lou Myers, myself, and Brother Khaled, we all attended the same school. They were both ahead of me, as I said. So now 15 years has passed. I'm living the life that I'm living. I'm in Los Angeles. I'm in San Diego. I have this, I have that, I have the other. I'm trying to protect it by going to a lawyer in Los Angeles because I remember that the Muslims were not afraid of white people. And I run into a situation in San Diego where, although I had an excellent case, I had 2 black lawyers. First, I had an Italian lawyer, a Jew, who took the case. And he told me that I should be happy because the plaintiff was happy. So what do you know about the plaintiff? So I learned a lesson from that. And then I got 2 black attorneys, and they grabbed my case, shot beautiful. And then within a day or 2, they called me to tell me, well, this is happening, that's happening. They couldn't take my case. I learned later they had been told, leave that case alone. And so because of what I was trying to do in San Diego, and I was actually bringing contractors together to get some of the 10% set aside in construction as they were rebuilding the cities at that time, and they thought that 10% set aside stuff. So now I'm locked down. I'm in court. I can't sell, I can't apothecate, I can't transfer, I can't do anything. And I learned that they wanted to see or find out what I was really doing. And so now I'm on my last piece of gold. I had been living off my jewelry now.
Wow.
For maybe a year because everything is tied up. I can't do anything. So I'm on my last little nugget of gold. I had this little nugget of gold, which was a kind of a big nugget. And I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm with an attorney that I found who was with Warith bin Muhammad. And I thought brother was maybe not didn't have that oomph that I remembered, from seeing the Muslims. I'd seen the Muslims all over the country. I'd traveled the country. And I saw the Muslims in Boston, and I saw them in Atlanta, where I really loved them. I had the blessing of um, meeting Brother Rahman and actually testifying for the Muslims as a reporter in a lot of different things I did. And as a reporter, investigative reporter in Atlanta at that time, I testified at the trial of the 7 brothers who were charged with murder and 7 other charges.
Wow.
Following the incident at Five Points in Atlanta. And I happened to be covering it. I came in late after the lunch, and there were 2 officers who were discussing the trial and what the testimony was going to be. I heard them, they didn't see it. And when I went in, they told me that I went in and I told Jocko and C.D. King, who were the attorneys defending the brothers. And of course, we heard Jocko out of New York, but many had not known of C.D. King. He was, wow, something they both. And I told them what I had heard the 2 policemen say, and they asked me, will you get up on the stand and say it? I said, yeah, I'll get up on the stand. I said a little more. I said, yeah, I'll get up on the stand and say it. So that testimony helped to get the brothers free.
Wow.
And I've always thought that maybe that's why Allah blessed me and allowed me to get through some of the other things I got through.
Praise be.
Now, again, I'm in Los Angeles now with an attorney trying to save what I have in San Diego. And I'm on my last piece of gold. I go into a jewelry store called Salam and Malik's, and on Crenshaw Boulevard. And when I walk into the store with the attorney, it had a step down. You know, you walk in and you step down. And when I got ready to step down, I looked over and I saw this brother. This brother was black and shiny. I mean, man, I'd never seen a black man look like that. And I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me. And it's 15 years. I'm looking at him, he's looking at me. And then all of a sudden he says, Greg, I say, Butch, and ran to him, brother. And we both hugged and everything, and the brother standing around looking at how he's handling me, right?
Yeah.
Not knowing that we had grown up. So here's the beauty of it. He tells me after we talked, he said, Minister Farrakhan is going to be speaking, listen at this, tomorrow, the next day. And he was speaking at Ward AME. And he said, I said, yes. I said, okay, I said, I'm going to be there. And he kept telling me. He told me maybe 3 or 4 other times. No, look, he's going to be there tomorrow, brother. Are you going to be there? And of course, after I stood up in LA, I understood why he asked me so many times. Because in LA, we'll say, oh, I'll be there. I'll do this. I'll do that. And you never see him. So I later understood why he said to me 4 times.
Wow.
The next day, I showed up at Ward AME. And I sat in the audience, and I listened to the minister. And after it was over, Brother Khaled brought me in the back and introduced me to the minister.
Wow.
Now, take a look at this. And I didn't even know he remembered. I have to tell you all, I had long hair at that time. I had hair. My hair down to my shoulders. And so the minister said in a jury, I said, no, sir, but minister, that was a California curl. You know, so, and I'm looking a little fly because I'm living a little fly.
Yes, sir. You was in LA.
And brother, he told me, he said, now look, I want you to stand outside the door. And when we come out, there's a limousine down there. This is Brother Collins. You jump in the limousine with us. So I'm standing outside the door, and I'm waiting on him to come. I was standing by the limousine. But those brothers came down those stairs, it was like zoom, 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 click up, and he was gone. I said, I'm too cool. I can't move that fast. I'm too cool for that. And that was my introduction.
Wow.
And from that point, brother, I went back a few times and I heard, I was already ready. I had really said, somewhere around 1975, when I get through doing what I'm doing, I'm going to stand up with the Muslims. That's out there right now.
Yes, sir. Praise
That's
be
out
to
there
you.
right now.
Wow. Now that's being now, I have to ask this question. With you having that history, Brother Khalid, being raised blocks a feet away from one another, going to Dillard, knowing each other like that. How did you handle it when we saw our brother begin to start taking a turn away from the minister in the nation in his latter days?
I was a little with less understanding then,
Mm-hmm.
and I was very angry, and I didn't understand why for a while, and I happened to see him on some trip in LA. I think it was at the airport in one of the little stores, and I asked him, a little disrespectfully, why are you saying that you haven't met with the minister? When I knew that on 3 occasions, to at least 3 occasions, both in New York and maybe in Chicago, I know that two that I know, I believe in New York, and then one maybe in Los Angeles. The bottom line is I knew he had met with me. And he was hurtful in a way because I loved Brother Khalid. And we soldiered together in Los Angeles after I stood up. And I didn't understand so much, but I did think that I had something of an understanding because my brother loved black people. There's no doubt about that. We would take his limousine and go pick up people on 5th and Broadway, 6th and Broadway. We would pick people up living in cardboard tents.
Wow.
And bring them to the mosque in a limousine and feed them.
Wow.
Both spiritually and physically. Sometimes, no, at any time. And this is why I'm so grateful to Brother Jabril for closing the gap, because if we allow anything to come in between us and the word from God through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, gaps can develop. I think of the prayer that's in the Quran, which says, seek refuge in Allah through patience and prayer. And in every instance where you find it, patience comes first. So I wondered then if patience is the reason that most of us leave. I'm not getting it when I want it. I want it now. I have an idea and I can't put my idea over, and this one's in the way and that one's in the way and the other one is in the way. I want to do this, I want to do that. I'm not this or that, because we do come with some of the arrogance that's in the streets also. I came in, the arrogance that we come is what we bring from out there. And we don't always see our arrogance. And when you think or misthink with the messenger of God, regarding his way, his method, then we make a terrible, 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 terrible mistake. If I say that I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came in the person of Master Father Muhammad, who raised a man with only a third grade education from this world. Maybe that's why they just say the Honorable al-Asr and say the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Sultan is a hater. But they don't mention that he said the earth weighs 6 sextillion tons of unit thought about 21 cycles. They don't mention a diameter of 7,926 miles, a circumference of 24,896 miles. 56 miles, I'm sorry. They don't talk about the distance of the sun that he taught. They do not ever mention and have not mentioned in 90 years to the public what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught. Because he taught science, he taught math, he taught physics, he taught biology, he taught anatomy. He taught something in every science that brought a change to science. So while the scientists have been examining what he taught in every field that he taught, they have yet to say that he lied. And they have yet to say that it's nothing. Why don't you put that out to the public?
That's interesting.
He
Go ahead.
questions that only a man who met somebody would have to know, because those who call themselves scientists in all the fields have not challenged what we were taught.
That is definitely, man, in regards to what you said, that, you know, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing these interviews, because why they want to do that, the testimony that you all give and the guests give is evidence against that. And when we're talking, when you mentioned the Most High Elijah Muhammad, what he taught, I know you came to Chicago. How did you become a part of the E team? And the brother has a picture, got you securing the album, Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yes, sir. That picture that you show there is 1983 when we dedicated the mosque in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And what's interesting about that, I thank Allah for allowing me to even be in that picture. But one of the interesting things about it is that we had put a star and crescent over the mosque. It was really a very beautiful edifice, which had been a restaurant prior to that, with an upper portion on top of the restaurant. It was a pretty large restaurant. And then one day, a wind at 70 miles an hour came and blew it down.
Wow.
Then we went and had the people who built it to make it 4 times stronger. And after that, eminent domain came in and moved us out.
Wow.
You know, and it actually happens to answer the question. We became in Los Angeles at the time involved. We were corrupt as hell. And the minister had come out several times to help to correct us in the corruption. I'm talking about that in the significance of blowing the Star and Crescent down. Because what we represent was not worthy of putting a star and crescent up there at the time.
Wow, that's interesting. And so you connected the wind blowing that star and crescent down to
Through our corruption. Not
wow.
that you didn't have good people.
You
Not
said
that
what?
you weren't good. Not that you didn't have good people. Not that the
Yeah,
people weren't good.
yeah,
But the mindset, and I'm speaking again of the mistakes that we make in
yes,
our
sir.
leadership. And when we may grow to think that we may know better than the guidance we are getting or have gotten from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who think about this. With all of the leadership that they have killed around the country, especially some of that which entertained your brother and mine. The one they fear the most is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Wow.
Because in their wisdom, many of them know who the man is and what he represents.
Wow.
But we have been blessed for 43 years to come this far without a scratch.
Wow.
What kind of leadership is that?
Wow.
When you are the greatest enemy to the most powerful country and enemy of God on the face of the earth.
And it's still there. And it's interesting. You mentioned about how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, how he's received all around the world. And there's that, you wrote, I'm thankful and I'm so happy, brother, that you interviewed. It was the assistant of the Abana Sheikh's son in the Final Call newspaper, because it's so needed for us to capture that history, because all of that helps to further bear witness to the divinity and the identity of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So when we talk about that meeting, the man was 104 years old at that time, the Abana Sheikh Muhammad. And I want to ask you a series of questions about that. Can you start off by telling the audience and the viewers just the significance of the Abana Sheikh when he was alive, his significance to the Islamic world? Because I don't think some of us understand that.
Yes, sir. Well, first we're in Medina, and he is the Abuna Sheikh, which means father of sheikhs.
Wow.
He gives birth to sheikhs. He makes sheikhs through the teaching of the Quran and the teaching of the way of the Prophet. He is the most, or was at the time of his life, the most respected. When there were those that said that would come to see the Abuna Sheikh, and it may have been royalty, and they would be asked to wait outside with the goats. We're in Medina, and as I remember, the details that I would have was that there was a sister who was there from London with her husband. They were both Muslims. She was black, he was white. And I remember there, or she, having something to do with this because they went with us. But obviously a call came out for the minister to come to the Abuna Sheikh. It's just as I understand it. And we went. And I remember at the door, When they found that it was the minister, the door opened immediately, and we were immediately asked to come in. I remember Brother Akbar, Sheikh Tijani, the brother and sister, and others who were with us. But when it came to going to actually see him, those are the ones that I remember that went in myself. And we went right up to his room. Now, this building has, I don't know how many apartments in it. And it was 6 stories high. We learned later that comprised his family.
Wow.
The building was his family. We go up to the 2nd floor and we go to his room. Immediately. The tradition, of course, in the Eastern world is when you come into a home, first you sit down for tea. Tea is as customary. But we went right upstairs. And I'm standing at the doorway looking in. Our brother is to my left, sitting on the bed that you see in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And the minister is sitting across from him with Brother Akbar, with the brother and sister, and I'm standing in the doorway. So first, it's as if the Abuna Sheikh calls us to come to him, but I'm standing in the doorway. It was to them. And so each went over and went down on a knee, not because we were bowing to him, but our brother is very old and very lucid. And as he calls each one, he says something, and they would go back and sit down. I came back and stood up. Then he calls for the minister again. And that's when I think he said to him, I pray for you 500 times a day.
Wow.
Brother Hassan corrected that later. He said more than 500 times a day.
Wow.
Now the minister, we don't even know that he knows the minister.
Dang.
And as he's talking with the minister, as we learn, all I'm looking at, I remember him saying Shaja, or the word that means courage. And he says it 3 times. And the picture that you just showed is so, I mean, it's as if the God was in control of the picture, because if you see, as he's sitting now over next to him, he's on this couch. You see the Abuna Sheikh, head down, and you see the minister raised above him in the picture, head up. We see one who has served all his life. And now I understand. It's as if he was like giving up the ghost.
Wow.
He's now giving to the minister a cloak and a staff.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about.
And what is the significance of Sheikh?
Yes.
When they have gone through, all of his students have gone through the training and the teaching, they get a a staff, and a cloak. After this is over, we come down now to the next level, and now we have tea. And I heard something of a clamor going on upstairs. I didn't know what it was, but it was something of a disagreement of something, and didn't understand. But what happens next is that one of his sons, very faithful son, comes down, and he has a cloak and a staff in his hand. Now, you just heard me say that he gives a cloak and a staff to the sheikhs after they have gone through their schooling or teaching, however that system is. But when you think about it, I don't think that was an extra cloak and staff. I don't even know.
Yeah.
But we learned that the argument was one son who he asked to do it, who didn't do it. He wouldn't bring it down.
Yeah.
And he didn't bring it down.
We all right.
He didn't bring it down because it belonged to his father, the Abunashir.
Wow.
The second son did bring it down.
Wow.
And very humbly gave it to the minister.
And here's a question. Go ahead. Make that point.
What he gave him was his cloak.
Wow.
Staff. And if you are giving him the cloak and staff of the Abunashir, which has been in Medina, now you're passing the cloak and staff, which will go with the man that you gave it to, back to America. If that cloak and staff is here, the Abunashir
is here.
So he was, in my humble opinion, handling his cloak and staff and his post to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
So he's shortly passed after that, right?
And in 1999, and what he wanted the minister to do, because he mentioned something else. We were in Palestine.
Yeah.
And I want to try to hold the context of the texture of it together. We were in Palestine earlier, and that was a great turmoil that went on the radio. Because when we arrived in Palestine, they tried to get in touch with Netanyahu to find out what to do. Do we let him in? Do we do this? Do we do that? They couldn't get Netanyahu. So we are American citizens. We have American passports. So we were allowed in. Of course, once we were in, this is when, of course, the minister met with Anwar Sadat and really gave them divine advice. Advisement as he did in every case with every leader, whether they were the leader of the country or the leader of the house of religion. And on our way back, when we finished in that meeting, we would listen to the radio, and man, on the radio they were going crazy. How did you fire gun in the country? We're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, and they better not go to the Dome of the Rock. And that was, we were going to go to the Dome of the Rock. And we were asked what we wanted to do. And thank the Lord, We all said that the minister wanted to go, we were going. But in the great wisdom and guidance, they would not, when they would not allow the Muslims that were with us to travel with us, the minister made the decision that we would not go under the circumstances.
Yes, sir.
The Abuna Sheikh had known about that. We didn't even know, I mean, the minister didn't know he knew anything about that. He tells the minister, wherever you want to go,
wow,
you go.
Wow. And look, these are important questions, because from that picture that you've shown, it doesn't look like you have been inside the house. I don't know like what technical, you know, like what access to technology the Abuna Sheikh had like TV, internet, and all of this stuff. And for him to be able to, like he told the minister, I pray for you more than 500 times a day, is interesting. How do you think he knew about it? But when you talked about the Abuna Sheikh and him passing that on to the minister, what does that mean for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? Like, what does that mean for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and his position with his Islamic world, for the Abuna Sheikh to give him that?
What it means, and whether or not the Islamic world would bow to what it means, is totally different. But if the father of sheikhs passes as it was once passed to him, if the father of sheikh passes, his cloak and his staff, and the cloak and the staff are representative of the Abuna Sheikh, then with all deduction, analysis, it could only mean that he was passing whatever Allah had given him in the way of stewardship. He was passing it to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Wow.
And that's not the only case in which something like that happened.
Wow. And in your interview, you mentioned this briefly. Okay, so the Abuna Sheikh does that, and you were around to witness that. What did you observe in regards to the impact that it had on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and how did he respond during that time, and then even afterwards, while you all are on your way to the next destination? What did you observe?
The minister, in his great and grand humility, I believe when we went downstairs, we were sitting, when we got back to the hotel, we were sitting in the lobby or something. He was trying to draw from Brother Tijani. What does it mean? And it was as if he wouldn't even dare think like even I was thinking. What I mean by that, I'm thinking it's very significant. But his humility doesn't allow him to take anything for granted.
Mm-hmm.
So we're now 11 years up from that. You know, we never got an answer. Didn't know so much of, you know, what it meant. And he just keeps working. That's what he does.
Wow.
He just keeps working. We're in Tripoli at an Islamic conference where the minister, of course, is invited. And Brother Hassan had been asked to come by Brother Akbar. And we were leaving on a break from the conference and going back to the compound. And I happened to be walking with Brother Hassan. And I had already learned, of course, he spoke Arabic fluently. And so we're walking, and I just asked him, because it's still in my head, Brother Hassan, what does a Buddha shape mean? And he said, oh. He said, it means father shape. He said, oh, are you talking about the experience with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and their Buddha shape in Medina? I said, yes, sir. That's what's on my mind. He said, you were there? I said, yes, sir. He said, brother, I was understudy at that time. And I was aware of that meeting. And he said, there were so many things subsequent to the meeting, and so many things that had happened after the meeting. And I asked him, well, brother, could I interview you? Could I ask you some questions? And then he allowed the question to be asked.
Wow. That's something.
And thus comes that most powerful
photograph
interview, where this great expression of the value of the minister,
yes, sir,
was made clearer and clearer and clearer by the answers he gave, because he had so much more.
Yes, sir.
We didn't know.
Yes, sir. And this is the same with you, brother Sultan. You are full, my brother. You are full. There's so many questions I want to ask you. You are full, and I don't know if you ever thought about it, but I pray that you all have one day y'all put y'all stuff in a writing, man, and in a book, all of these ideas. You know.
Yes, sir.
I pray, and anything I can do to help, I would love to. You're talking about just the impact, and you've witnessed the impact of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on people from all sectors of life, kings.
Hey, may I say one more thing regarding that
yes.
picture?
Yes.
If you can put that picture.
I'll bring it back up with the bonnet shape.
In the Muslim world, and I experience it myself even here, people would say that picture was cropped.
Wow.
Because
he was in the room.
He never took any pictures with anyone. There may have been a picture with a granddaughter from many years ago.
Yes.
So many don't even believe that he took a picture with the minister.
Yes. And for those, go ahead.
That's how significant the picture was.
Yes, sir.
They
and for those
pictures.
Yes. And for those who are watching, if you have not read that article, you can go on, you can Google it on the Final Call newspaper. You can type in Minister Farrakhan and Abana Sheikh. You have to go and read that interview, brothers and sisters. It is historic, because as Brother Sultan said, the man it's the same way in the scripture when Elijah passed his mantle on to Elisha, and what that signified, right? And so, Brother Sultan, you have talked about like the minister's impact. Also, in preparation for this, somebody asked me to ask you this question. Can you talk about how the Imam who passed, Imam Didat, right? How
yes,
Imam Didat, how this Islamic scholar, how much he loved the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and even the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's impact on him?
Well, that I am aware of, but not directly.
Mm-hmm.
I have been in position to know of our brother and to have something of a communication that would allow me to at least think and know of, and then having heard the love for the minister. But I can't give any details to that, except that I have been in the, if I remember correctly, in the presence, but I didn't know much of what was really
much about that.
on.
So when I asked you that question about the E team, you got so full, you shared so much other valuable stuff. So I want to go back to that question about how did you become a part of the E team?
Oh, wow. Wow.
You so full, I
Okay.
got to guide them back to that question.
Well, I stood up, as you know, in LA, and I was a happy Muslim. You know, I am still a happy Muslim. And I worked pretty hard. You know, I worked every day. You know, I never did anything else. I can't think of having done anything else since I came to the nation. One way or the other, I've been able to survive. And so I leave LA and I go to Phoenix. Because when we were set down, I don't know if you all know, but November 29, 1983, the mosque was set down because of our disobedience. Simple. Deservedly so. And then we had mercy. And Brother Jabril had come, and he would come back and forth, you know, to teach. And in 86, they started rebuilding, building on a mosque that was on Broadway in Phoenix. And so I decided I wanted to, you know, experience Brother Jabril, so I moved to Phoenix. And there also. And so the minister was in Phoenix at the time. I mean, this is one of the times the minister had come to Phoenix. And we had started working on the mosque here in Chicago. And I wanted to go and work on the mosque because, you know, I saw it at the Solomon building, you know, temple, and I wanted to put my hands on it. So I asked the minister one day, he was at the National House in Phoenix, and I was there on post, and I asked him if I could go, would it be all right if I went to Chicago to work on the mosque? And he said, brother, I just put out the call. I didn't know who was coming. I was gone. So I arrived November 13th on a Sunday, November 6th, and to work on the mosque. And then on the 13th, a week later, the minister started Problems in Relationships, where he was talking about the great Josh. But before he got into it, he said, I have a brother who lost his son. And then he said, went into God not being emotional. God is mathematical. God takes babies. And then at a certain point, he turned and said, brother, he sent that baby to teach you and your wife that you can never give up. Brother Willie, my dear brother, that is exactly what I had learned. A baby that I had never seen anyone struggle like that baby. And the history that went behind this baby of ours, who had what's called trisomy 18, where there's 3 chromosomes, 18 on the 18th vertebrae. When it's on the 13th vertebrae, that's called Down syndrome. And This baby led me by God's guidance and help through exactly 10 months of his life.
Mm.
And the things that happened between his birth and his return. That is a story that Brother Jabril told me to tell, and I better get that story. But that baby, my wife succumbed and returned as a result of breast cancer.
Wow.
And when she was able, at the last of the time, when she was actually able to speak, she said, I just think of Asr. That was the baby's name.
Mm.
That the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told us on November 13th, that baby was sent to teach us that we can never give up.
Wow.
And she was saying that she would not give up. She would just think of that baby.
Wow.
So such a beautiful thing. Now I'm in Chicago, and I'm working with Brother Rashid, who is in Baton Rouge, and he's a carpenter, and we were laying all, as a matter of fact, y'all, when you look at all the sidewalks outside and all the way around the mosque, I was blessed to be able to help them. I didn't know anything. They taught me everything. To lay the frames for all the cement that's been poured, the sidewalks and all of that. So I was happy. And we had a charity, but I felt guilty. I really felt guilty taking it. And so, but I did. And then often when we started that drive, we had a drive going to get the mosque ready and get it done. We raised money, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time. And so when we finished, there were first a few of us who remained after Savior's Day, after we had done the work that was being done. And maybe one or two of us still left, of which I was one. And Brother Frank, who is now Brother Ali, was the screen captain. And so he asked for somebody, he needed somebody to stand post at the base one, at the palace. So I jumped up and I volunteered, man, I stand post at the palace. And you know what the beauty of it was? And that time, there were those who would come from New York and LA and Houston. They didn't care where they came from. They would to stand post at the palace.
Hmm.
Man, to stand post at the palace, this is what it meant.
Hmm.
To the believers, and that's what it means to the believers now.
Wow. Now,
What I just said. But anyway, so I'm there on post every day. And one day, I can't remember, it was either Brother Tata or Salim. He came out the door and said, "Brother, we need your car." So I said, "Okay. You're not going to get my car without me." And so that was my first detail, sitting on post.
Wow, and that's how it all started, huh?
And that's how it started, and then we were driving everywhere at the time. And one of the beautiful things was Brother Haroon and I, a couple of times I can't remember why we would leave late or whatever, but there were a couple of times when we left Chicago and we didn't know where the minister was going in this or that city. And I got to get Brother Arun to tell this.
Oh, we got to get him, man.
2 times we went, it's like radar. We went right to them where they were.
Wow.
Found them. But we riding all over there. I mean, all of us, man. And, all the team, we were driving everywhere, you know. And there's just so many stories in that too.
Listen. That's what we are here in the audience and the members. They love those stories because it helps us to get an even greater understanding of our nation, of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the sacrifices. And since we're talking about that, you know, you being on the E team, that means also want to transition to this question about a very trying time for you, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and others. The moment he had to be rushed to the hospital, you know, were you around during that time? And I know that was a very trying time. Like, what do you remember about that time? And also, how were you able to maintain your faith and your strength during that time, seeing him in that condition?
Well, I'm going to say something. You know, I was very, very grateful for the time that I spent in Phoenix with Brother Gabriel. My love for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan grew because of the way he taught about him and what he taught of him and some of the things that were said about him. And I knew that he had trials and would have trials because of what I had been taught. I just can't remember a time that I ever thought that in any of these crises, the minister was gone. I didn't know. I only know what I believed from what I had been taught. And I believed it. Now, that made it a little difficult because I remember one time didn't seem to be sad. And I was actually smiling and I was called a hypocrite. But I believed that he was who he was. And I believed in what I had learned from what I had been taught and what I had benefited from. It can only make you fall in love when you see him go through it. I wrote another article that appeared in the Final Call called God's Suffering Servant. And I heard the minister say one day that how he never talked about his pain before us because he didn't want us to think that God was not with him. So he wouldn't even take the chance on our misunderstanding his pain. So he's in pain and not saying a word. Wow. I learned later, I'm traveling with him, I'm in the suite 16, 18 hours a day. And I never hear him complain about it. We would do different things and go get this and go get that. But he wasn't letting us into the knowledge of his pain.
Damn.
How much pain. And then I was blessed to go to Isaiah 14th chapter, learning about why God's messenger would suffer like that.
Mm.
The suffering was not for him. The suffering he was doing was for us.
Mm.
It was like to me, okay, bam. Still want to stay there and work with him? Yes, sir. Dang. You still want to stay and work with him? Yes, sir. His love. See, that heart that you would see, I can't remember what you call it, coming out of this white Jesus, but you know,
Yeah.
the heart coming out of his chest.
The Sacred Heart.
The sacred heart. He is that sacred heart.
Mm.
It's out there. You can examine it. You can look into it. You can study it because you study it through what he has done, not said. Because in what he says also proves God, because in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh. He lives what he says.
Mm-hmm.
The Word of God is a man.
Mm.
All you have to do is watch him. But if you have the blessing of hearing him and then watching him, watch him be what he says.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
watch him be what he asks us to be.
Yes, sir.
And then to watch what he has to go through to prove that he would give his life for us as he has.
Wow, that's now you talked about this, and I'm gonna you talked about the stories and the experiences. So I want to ask you about some qualities of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and if you can pull up in your mind things that you saw him do or say to someone that we may not be aware of that demonstrates this quality, please feel free to share that particular experience or observation. What can you share with us about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's compassion and mercy?
Mel Reynolds vied against Gus Savage, who was one of our great helpers and one who loved the minister very much, Gus Savage. And he was in his congressional run. And Mel, oh my God, I just called his name.
Gus Savage, Mel something he said.
What was it? Mel Reynolds, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mel Reynolds was Apex man. And brother was a Rhodes Scholar, very intelligent, super intelligent brother. And so APAC backed him against Gus Savage, and they won. Mel Reynolds was not known as a friend of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan or the Nation of Islam.
Mm.
But at a certain point, they dumped Mel Reynolds and charged the man with a 14-year-old girl who was he was supposed to have molested, and it also charged him with extortion, bank fraud. So at that time, it was known that obviously, not known, I thought that obviously Brother had something they wanted him to do that he wouldn't do. Brother ends up in court. He ends up by himself. He ends up almost losing his family, all of this. Guess who pays for his defense?
Wow. Wow. Minister Farrakhan.
Minister Farrakhan. Because he knew that that was an enemy using my brother. See, what kind of love is that, man?
Wow. That's heavy there, brother.
And I'm at the trial. And one of the things I learned at the trial, because most of it, what they was using was the talking about the extortion, and he lied to the banks. If I remember correctly, there were two presidents. No, I'm sorry, one president of the bank and two vice presidents of the bank. He's Apex man. So he goes to them for, I think, campaign money and something else or whatever it was. And now they're charging the man with fraud.
Wow.
But look how they set him up for the fraud. He went to them and they told him, you just sign, don't worry about it, we'll fill in the blanks. See, when you trust the enemy like that, you just sign, we'll fill in the blanks.
Wow.
And it came out with real. Of course, they still found him guilty. They set brother up by his signing, and then they fill in the blanks, and then when we want you to do something, hey, well, we got this on you. What you gonna do? But whatever it was, you gotta say, the brother wouldn't do it.
Wow. And so how did that come about? Like the man was, because at one point, like you said, he was on the opposite side of his position with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So how did that come about? The minister, like, paying for his defense. The minister just reading it in the news and said, somebody get in contact with brother, I'm gonna look out for his defense. I mean,
I don't know the
details. Yeah.
Details. It's just that I
know that he did it.
And I spoke with the attorney.
Wow. How did Mel Reynolds respond after knowing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan came to his aid in that way, if you know?
I was never able to speak to him.
Mm-hmm.
At any time during the trial, of course, and of course afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
I did see him once later, years later,
mm-hmm.
Where in an elevator, I was getting off, he was getting on, and I asked him, what did they ask him to do that he wouldn't do? I just asked that question. And he said no and stepped right on the elevator.
Wow.
And just stepped on the
elevator. Wow. Okay. So we talked about that and the minister's compassion and his mercy.
Well, let's do Kabila.
Huh?
Let's do Kabila's charge.
Definitely.
The enemy is going to call the minister to tell him that she and some other Jew are involved in conspiracy to kill. They don't really know who they're dealing with. And the minister backs her defense. She's supposed to be involved in a plot
to kill you.
To kill him, and he's going to defend her, make sure she's duly represented. He said because they were using his sister, setting out to use her against him. And then something like that gets off. What would the enemy expect us to do?
Mm-hmm.
Know what he can do? Can attack the family where there's already concern.
Mm.
He backs his sister.
Hmm.
Who does that?
Mm-hmm. Who does it? Wow.
Who does that?
And you know, I have in my short time of serving as a student minister, done some things that have angered the minister, but of course he corrects and he builds up. And when you're in his presence again, it's like it never happened. He doesn't bring it back up, right? So in your time of being around the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, what can you share with us about how he handles his students, his helpers, when they're at their high moments, but also when even at they may be at their low moments? What can you share with us of some stories?
I could capitalize it by saying the minister said, if there's even an atom of good, focus on that atom.
Ooh. Lord have mercy.
And as we grow, we see more and more of what, I mean, that statement, like every statement he makes, is of life. They grow. We grow. If we grow in those statements ourselves and the things that he has said. And there have been times, you know how it is, somebody gets in trouble.
Yes, sir.
And you know how us little used to be Negroes becoming about, yeah, he gonna get him now.
Mm-hmm.
Get her now. And you're sitting there and the minister's in such a meeting and he said, have you ever noticed how brother does this? The one being charged.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed how sister does that? He focuses
On the atom of good.
on the atom of good that we have.
Woo, woo.
And he grows it if we would but grow.
Lord have mercy. Shoo.
Brother, I learned from that. If you keep telling me what I do wrong,
Whew.
you're going to grow that in me.
Wow.
And you're going to grow contempt from me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happens when I've offended you, brother? And you start talking about the beauty of me.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And now I have a chance to recover. Because he's always giving life. That's what the messenger of God is. He's life.
Life giver. Wow. Yo, you got any more? You got any more of those stories like that? That was who focus on the atom of good. Well, let me ask you. You got another story? I can ask you this next question.
Well, go ahead.
You mentioned earlier about the minister's way, and it connects to, I can imagine, you know, if there's some who are licking their lips and, ooh, he's about to get it or she's about to get it, and the minister doesn't handle it like that, how it can be a trial for them. What makes, here it is, how would you describe or explain the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's way, and what makes it such a challenge for some people?
His way is the way of God. And when I know I fall short of that, when I see the way of God, I can either bow to it or I'll become angry because I'm not that. I might say a lot of things, about it negative. But it's envy. And envy of the messenger of God can only lead to my own death.
Wow.
Why wouldn't I extol what I see?
Wow.
So, not like the angels when they were dealing with the bliss, but when we see God and don't understand what we see, my vision is short. I'm short-sighted. See, that's where faith has to come in also. Hoped for, not seen. I always wanted, from the day I came to the nation, and I saw the brothers with the minister, and I started seeing the team. I wanted to do that when I was in LA. That was hoped for. I never knew that would be evidenced one day.
Wow.
And I would get that kind of blessing. I have that kind of blessing. There are many who hoped for it.
How
Does that mean that if I don't get it, I'm not worthy of it? I'm coming to see how much, Brother Willie, I am not you. I'm coming to see how much I'm not Brother Mike. I'm not this brother or that brother. What did God give me?
Wow, there's a
to make me a part of the success.
Wow.
Because all of us who are here are being called to be a part of the success of the building of the kingdom of God.
Wow. That there's a remind me, there's an article I'm going to email you. It's one of the most powerful articles I've read. It was in the Essence magazines, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I think it's called Life of Faith. And it's powerful. He talks about something that you said. I'm gonna send it to you, but I want to ask this because you said about how you've been called and being able to help. I was told how you played a significant role in helping to bring honor and respect and creating a certain atmosphere in the many suites when the minister travels around to different cities and they have the suite. And you will go above and beyond to make sure that it had a certain atmosphere and a certain, everything that was together. What makes you do that?
Who am I walking with? Who's coming to your hotel? So I would always invite the general managers up to the suite. And then I would say to them, of course, who our guest is, and for them to provide whatever amenities that they would generally provide in any other situation like this, as you do for your president, as you do for your governors or whatever. That's high to hell. Because I want to put it in their minds
Wow.
Careful. I want you to know how we think about this man. And I want you to really understand from me, like they say, who do you think he is? Yeah.
Wow. And that's what did it.
Right.
So, wow.
So they got to a point where in some of the hotels when we would come,
yeah.
the general manager started being absent. But guess what?
You got him.
Didn't make any difference. Because when he's in your hotel, everything will function around him. That was my idea.
Yo, I feel that in your response and see that in your words and in your body language that yes, I thank you. I thank you for providing that type of helping to provide that type of quality of service to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I'll ask you this. I know it may be like a kind of hard question to think about at this moment, but what would you say is one of the most profound things the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught you, either be from what he said or just from something, your observation?
What came to mind first is we were talking one day, and he said, Brother Sultan, this is the wake-up message, brother. Are you awake? And you said profound. That hit me. It still hits me. And I gave brother probably one of the most intelligent answers I've ever given. I said, I don't know.
You were honest. You were honest.
And the shock of the question, then to think, brother, are you awake? And then I thought, are we awake? Sometimes our actions, my actions, show that we may not always be as awake as we think.
That's true. That is true.
Sometimes, after we have a little knowledge, we start talking about the other people. Like we're better. It's one of the most ungrateful things for me to call you a nigger.
Woo, woo.
After I get a little knowledge.
Damn. That's true, brother. That is true,
the
brother.
Lord of the worlds came and lived among us, drunkards.
Never called us niggas.
Dope things. All of that.
Never called us niggas. And here's this final question. May Allah be pleased with our brother Abdul Hafiz. When the minister talked about in a believers meeting and, on the phone, he wrote about, he talked July 4th about how he was impacted by the passing of our brother, who the minister told us that he's a martyr. He's one of our martyrs. Personally, as I listened to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talk about how the impact of the passing of Brother Hafiz impacted him on such a deep level, I asked myself, I said, man, I wonder if Brother Hafiz knew how much the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan loved him. Now, I'm not saying that he didn't know. This is just me thinking. So my question to you is, we talked about the love. We know that the minister loves all of our people. We know that he loves Allah. We know that he loves the believers. We know that he loves the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. How do you know from your time being with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, his level of love for you, Brother Sultan?
He allows me as his personal assistant to serve him even in my ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
I know that many times we are disrespectful. We don't even know it.
Mm.
There are times when I've watched this or that person and the way they, in my opinion, disrespect the minister. And you want to do this and you want to do that. And they're this and they're that. But we never think about how we may do the same. Sometimes it's intentional, right? You really want to do something. But other times, just ignorance. So say he loved us beyond our faults to see our needs. Fault coming out of my mouth or being worked by my hands. Beat me up, not the time I got beat up. Oh yes, sir. But no, he didn't. He looked beyond my faults and would reach in. See, this is a master surgeon. And move that little crud out the way right there. Move that out the way over there. And grow that atom of good. More and more and more. That's why we can take his words. I mean, sometimes we just like, oh, beat me some more. Oh, the ministers beat me. I mean, look, you don't want to be like that. But the reason that we can take it, when you know someone loves you, that's why we are able to get up when he corrects us. It's the way he corrects us, the way he teaches us. And sometimes we may try to do it and we find ourselves sometimes offending people. We got to get more like this. More like him. And then love 8 minutes, 20 seconds. Somebody mentioned 8 minutes, 20 seconds the other day. It takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds for the ray of sun leaving the sun, reaching the earth at 196 million miles per second. 186 million miles per second. Then we say it takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds for the blood to leave the brain, go all the way down to the toe, and come back to the brain. And then I can't remember why did the minister say it or why we started watching or why I started watching. We go somewhere and the minister's speaking, and I'll find somebody with a frown on their face. And then I'll come back approximately 8 minutes and 20 seconds later. And the frown is gone.
Wow. Hey, wow. This is, Man, it's so much. I'm gonna ask you this. The title of this show is "I Have a Testimony." If you had to stand before the world, and every human being who had access to a television, a radio, the internet, etc., would get the opportunity to hear you, Brother Sultan, testify about a quality of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, what quality would you testify about the minister and why?
Well, again, the overwhelming quality is love. And I would give this as an example. We were in the Gambia.
Love those stories.
Where Alex Haley traced his roots, where Alex Haley had gone. And while we were there, we went back to the island where, of course, Alex Haley was supposed to have been born. And we saw some of his jet black, beautiful heritage and people. And someone had told him that Alex Haley had said that he was going to send some money back for them to build a school and a mosque. But for whatever reason, as the minister said, the money never got there. So as the minister is talking about that, the minister says, well, I'm going to give you the money to build the school and the mosque. And he says that when it's built, and he will name the mosque will be named the Alex Haley Mosque. Now, the Alex Haley Christian, Muslim, whatever, Alex Haley, that's one of our names here. But he's going to name that mosque in his name, and he says that I want to make my brother's word bond.
Wow.
Did you hear what I just said?
Yes, sir.
Did you hear what I just said?
Yes, sir. Make his brother's word bond.
He was going to make his brother's word bond. And the beauty is, the joy for me, I was in a Dunkin' Donuts and I heard a brother's accent and I asked him where he was from. And the brother said that he was from the Gambia. I said, well, brother, I'm an honorary citizen of the Gambia. I said, I was there with Minister Farrakhan. And he was going to build a mosque in a school. He said, I went to the school.
Wow. Look at that.
Wow.
Look at that. Man.
I mean, brother, there is no prophet that I've read who suffered as either the Honorable Elijah Muhammad or Minister Farrakhan. But the God took it to another level. The two who backs you. I know these bags. Most men with bags, man, they don't even live much longer. You know,
brother. Over. That's right, man.
I've watched him
Yes.
through infections, through everything he has gone through, going through almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
These bags.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear the man joke about him.
Wow, brother.
But it has never stopped him.
Yes, sir.
We brought him to the mosque in 2000, laying down in the limousine.
Damn.
That's right. In pain.
Mm-hmm.
And then climbed those stairs. Got up to the rostrum and taught for 3 hours.
Lord have mercy.
Who held him up?
Mm-hmm.
Who holds him up?
Mm-hmm.
And then we walk through scripture with what we saw July 4th.
Mm-hmm. Whew. Man. So, Brother Sultan, we man, that was you shared some jewels, brother. And in the comments, people are really loving what you shared, and so much, man. It's unfortunate. We're gonna have to do this. We're gonna have to do this again in the near future because we have 9 more minutes and the next show is about to start. But can you briefly, in your closing, if there was anything that you wanted to share that you did not have the chance to share, maybe because I didn't ask the question, you have the opportunity to share, but you have to do it within 2 or 3 minutes so we can
Yes,
close it on out.
I want to show you something here.
World Friendship Tour.
World Friendship Tour.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to say that that's something that we, Final Call has it. Everyone should have a copy of it to show and to be able to show it to someone. As we watch a man from America, the most wicked planet on earth, born from among the slaves, taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, backed by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, backed by Master Sultan. He's from the wilderness of North America. Come up, and anywhere he goes in the world, he can speak, and the people go wild. Wait a minute. You don't have anybody that can do that. No one on the face of this earth and speak millions of words, and you can't find him to be a liar.
That's right.
Can't we see that's miraculous?
Mm-hmm.
And you know how we do. Teach. Look, I was beat up in Mecca at the Al-Haram Mosque.
Wow.
When the minister just wanted to go, the Tawheed prayer, the night of power. We're in Jeddah. The minister mentions it. We don't know where this is coming from. We get an escort by the Jeddah police to the Mecca police. The Mecca police takes over from there, escorts us to the mosque. We get to the mosque, and here comes the army. Rank from the army. To escort us in and get the minister so he could do the circumambulation around the Kaaba. Of course, therefore, I had to help the army get us around it. Then when it's over, the minister wants to find a place to pray for the Tawheed prayer. Somebody is talking to Johnny, and then we end up going up to this place where they sat us. And the place where we sat us, Not even 10 feet away is the imam leading the prayer. That's where we were.
Wow.
Right there with the imam leading the prayer. After it's over, what we did know what the minister didn't like, it's kind of a VIP thing. You know the minister don't like that. But anyway,
wow.
So people look up there to see who's up there. Because royalties usually up there. Well, they really did have royalty this time. And so I'm looking down and I'm kind of noticing that people kind of recognize him, right? Wow. And because it's up above the floor and there's a floor down up under it. And I noticed that was this big wooden petition that was behind us. And it was covering something, but I didn't know what it was covering, painted white. And, it's covering something. All of a sudden, we're trying to decide if we're going to stay and just wait because that time we prayer that night, I mean, it was almost maybe a little past 3 a.m, and prayer was going to be at about 5. So we may as well, it was only about an hour difference, hour and a half. So we were trying to decide whether we were going to just stay there, or go back to the hotel, which was just down the street. While we're trying to make that decision, all of a sudden, just petition behind me, you hear crash, bam, boom. They broke it down. They tore it, turned around, they tore the damn thing down. Wow. What it does is it blocks you from being down, up under there, and coming up, and then coming up to the place where the prayer is. They tore it down. This is al-Haram Mosque. Wow. That doesn't happen in al-Haram Mosque. Mm-hmm. And then when they tear it down, they running for the come, all these different dialects. And guess what? What? 99% of them, from what I saw, were all the youth. Wow. From all over the world. Wow. Yeah, Farrakhan. Wow. So it got so bad that I'm generally only, it was just myself, Brother Mustafa, I think Brother Rashad, Brother Haroon, I can't remember. I'm on his back. It got so bad, Mustafa said, Dad, we got to get you out of here. And look, when they was called, I skipped the part. When they called his name, you know how the ministry is. He turns around and put that smile. Lord have mercy. And he put his hand up in the air like waving to him. Mm-hmm. He tried to touch that hand. Wow. I got my behind whooped. The best whooping I ever had in my life. Wow. So look, Brother Sultan, we're at that moment. There's another show that's coming, but I thank you for your comments. I'm gonna call you because you just gave me an idea, and I want us to move out on it because it's in alignment with something that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been asking, and I strive my best to deliver what I hear him say he wants to do. I'm gonna call you after this to share with you. I'm gonna need your help with it. But thank you, brother. Thank you, sir. Okay. Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate you. Listen, this is one to be studied. You had so much. I normally allow the conversation to flow, but there was so much popping in your head. I was trying to get you back to some of those questions, but a lot worked it out. But listen, if I just threw the paper away, every question that I had, I was trying to have it in a little structure. Allah bless them all to be answered. You came through. And so, but I thank you, man. And I thank our brother behind the board, brother Mike, man. Thank you. If you all see, everybody watching, y'all see that professionalism that has come to I have a testimony. The Lord thirds look all sharp and nice. The images, that's our brother Mike. And we're looking for somebody to help train and help me out. He can't do it every Sunday. But I thank you, Brother Mike. I thank everybody who tuned in. I wish I can say the names we got from our brother James, Sister Linda, Brother Chase Ford, Sister Valerie, Brother Charles, Brother Derek, Brother Daniel, Brother Lewis, Brother Derek Minor, Brother Dante and his wife, Dante Latoya, Sister Sabira, if I'm pronouncing it right, Valerie, Sister Valerie Brock, Sister Safia,
Brother Joseph, Audrey X. Tillman, Brother Cedric from our region, Sister Rose, Sister Sultana, and Saada, I might mention name. Rose, Sister Rose again, Sister San, Muhammad and Nat. All of you are Talin. All of you are, we are thankful, Brother DJ Rockwell. We got something coming up big with Big DJ Rockwell. Stay post. Tyler, Jay Donald. All of you all just want to show gratitude. Joanne, please leave some comments. Type your comments. What did you gain from it? Everybody, I know part 2, but check it, Brother Rockwell. We got a special part 2. I'm going to talk to Brother Sultan after this. This is going to be special. Allah just put this idea in my head. Please leave your comments. What did you gain from it? I'm going to tell you what touched, one of the many things that touched me, him talking about when the minister said, if you look at an atom of good, and what Brother Sultan said, that, ooh, Lord, and the story about Mel Reynolds and his passion, what he just shared about the ministers still working despite his condition. Please leave your comments. Please hurry up and type them. Brother Sultan, thank you. Thank you. Thank your family. Brother Mike, thank you. I thank my family. I thank all the believers, everybody that supports me, those in the city and those outside the city. They all know who they are. Thank you all. And man, thank you. And this concludes. I have a testimony. Inshallah, I'll see you all on next Sunday at 1 p.m. And make sure you share this. All right. Assalamu alaikum.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us. He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.